All right, good afternoon and welcome. Welcome. Come on in, come on in. All right, my name, if you don't know, is Aaron Bundy. I'm the Director of Security and Transportation Services. And of course, Steve Anderson, Director of Property Management. And today we're covering our evacuation plan review. So fire safety here at Lanier Village Estates, safety is our top priority. All resident buildings are equipped with automated fire monitoring and suppression systems to ensure early detection and rapid response. All right, each fire water sprinkler systems that are actively monitored, a fire alarm system with smoke detectors connected to 11 annunciator panels located throughout the property that will alert staff to any issues. We have manual pull stations near the exits and stairwell entrances. We also have individual smoke detectors with alarms in each residence for added protection. Today we'll be discussing the evacuation plan and what actions to take when the general alarm is activated. So it made that statement, the general alarm. There is a difference between your apartment alarm going off, usually in the case of a cooking incident, and then the building alarm or the alarm in the hallway. So today we're talking about that general alarm or the building alarm. That is what we're talking about. We will hit at the very end your individual apartment alarm. That'll be a slightly separate issue. All right, so the first thing that happens when an alarm sounds, and this is again for the building, the three buildings, the clubhouse, east and west, will alarm independently. So an alarm in one won't set off all of the buildings. It'll just be that specific a building. All right, we have the stationary officer or the officer that's at the security gate, the welcome house, the front gate, and then we have the patrol officer. So those are the main two duties that are the initial response in a fire emergency. The stationary officer is going to contact the patrol officer and send them to investigate, because they will be able to monitor the panel right there at the welcome house. They'll see it, it's right there on their right. They can see exactly when it alarms, what happens, and they'll send the patrol officer. And they're going to wait for confirmation from the patrol officer. Or in the event we had one instance, a resident called and said there's smoke. If there's smoke, it's not a false alarm. Okay, you don't have to actually find fire. If there's smoke, we're not in false alarm territory. So the stationary officer is going to wait for that confirmation, either from a resident or from that patrol officer. In the event that it is an actual fire, the stationary officer calls 911 and remains at their post. This is for command and control. They're going to remain at their post, direct the firemen if need be. They're going to give out any further communication commands to the patrol officer. They're going to receive information from that patrol officer and kind of attempt to coordinate. They're also going to enact the emergency contact list. So that's an emergency list of mostly director level staff, but in the event of, and it's not just fire, but power outages and any number of issues, we have an emergency contact list. The stationary officer will start calling those people, and they'll either come in or report telephonically to assess and try to aid in that emergency situation. Now we get to the patrol officer. So they're going to immediately proceed to the alarm area, and again that's determined by the annunciator panel, whichever smoke detector or pull station initially reported the issue, that's where they're going to go. They're going to determine if there is smoke or fire and immediately report that up. Their next step is to evacuate all personnel from the affected area, the immediate area. So this isn't the whole building, this is, they're going to attempt to evacuate. If it's in a particular apartment, they're going to try to get those people out and then the few surrounding apartments. But that immediate area, they're going to attempt to facilitate evacuation. Then they're going to start preparing for the fire department. Part of that is unlocking any doors. We're going to hit on that a little bit later. But they're also going to direct fire personnel. If the firemen are here, hey, it's right there, it's down this hall to the left or what have you. They're going to direct fire personnel. And then they're going to further assist the fire department only if asked to do so. Otherwise, they're going to aid in the evacuation. So once it has been determined that this is not a drill, the stationary officer is also going to radio for kind of an all-hands-on-deck situation. And this happened a year ago when we had a fire incident. So any personnel that are not actively engaged, from Willowbrook, OBT, maintenance, housekeeping, all personnel that are not actively engaged with a patient, they are going to move to the fire area to facilitate evacuation. Okay, so even if it happens at night, we're still going to have 3 or 4 people extra come into this situation, not just security. So that kind of goes through security's response and steps that they take. Now we're coming into be prepared, and I'll hand off to Stephen.
All right, so part of the, I guess, or one of the biggest steps that we can take in our evacuation plan is to be prepared for the plan. Part of that is knowing where all of your fire extinguishers are at, knowing where the pull station is at, because if you see a fire, it's good to know that you can go over and pull the pull handle. No, we don't expect you to go grab a fire extinguisher, honestly. The fire extinguishers are more for us or for fire personnel. Your goal is to get out and get away from a fire if you see a fire. Call 911, call security if you see a fire, but please don't attempt to grab a fire extinguisher. That's for us to do. The main, most important thing is to know your escape route, know where your designated staging area is located. We put that information at the back on the countertop for you, so if you've not seen that in the past, it is available for you right now. Here in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be updating the evacuation policy. I'm going to post that on the link, probably either in a hyperlink or maybe as a PDF, so that you'll have the ability to download that and print it yourself. You don't have the ability to get a printed copy of the resident handbook any longer, so we'll make sure that you have the ability to get it from somewhere. So that will be available here coming up shortly. Let's see. Ultimately, if you have any questions about that, where you're supposed to go, if you are confused when you look at the evacuation route, as you walk down the hallway, please contact Aaron or I would be more than happy to come and take a look at it with you and show you where you need to go, how you need to get out of the building safely. A go bag. If you have any kind of military background, many of you are familiar with the term go bag, and if not, you probably still may have heard the term go bag. But when you're leaving in a hurry, and a lot of times the last thing you think of are some of the most important things, like your keys. You want to be able to get back into the building in case you need to, or have your car keys or your access card or a jacket. One of the things that I think is important is probably a day or two's worth of your medicine. If you have to have specific medicines that are important to you, you should probably have those. It is recommended that you probably keep your pet leash near your go bag, because if you have animals and you're going to be leaving and there is an event of a fire, you want to take your animal with you. It's easy to grab your leash, your go bag, everything all at one time. Keep that with you, so as you're leaving you can grab your go bag and your animal and you've got everything all together. Then when the event is over, hopefully you're coming back, you've got your keys, you didn't forget it, and you don't have to wait on security to come and unlock the door for you to get back in. Just makes life a little bit easier for you. When you do get ready to leave your apartment, this is very old school. Most of you are very familiar with this process. We have to check the door, right? Make sure that it's not hot before you leave. If the fire is right outside of your door, you don't want to walk into it. If it's warm, make sure you don't go outside. If you do open the door and you see smoke outside, go back into your apartment. Please don't try to walk through the smoke to get out. Go back in, go out either to the patio door, to your screen door, let some other people know down that you can see, or you can call security and let somebody know that you're not able to leave your apartment. Just make somebody aware that you've got smoke, you're not able to leave your apartment, but don't try to get out through the smoke. That's not what we want you to do. In most cases, you're going to be exiting the apartment just like you you normally would. You're going to follow your evacuation plan, get to your staging area. But rule of thumb is to check the door. You don't want to walk outside and get right into the thick of the heat.
I can take this one.
Yeah, please.
So we're talking about, on this one, Wellness's mobility impaired list. They've got a list for anyone with scooters or a mobility device. We want to expand that, so there's a sign up in the back, and then we'll capture others that aren't here at a later date. But the criteria for signing up on this mobility impaired list is, are you able to navigate downstairs without assistance? Okay, if you can, you don't need to sign up for anything. If you think you wouldn't be able to navigate down the stairs, then sign your name up so we can identify you as somebody that needs help in this instance. Along with that, when you're evacuating, if you are mobility impaired, your route would be to go to your nearest stairwell, all right, and stage at the top of that stairwell, okay? Don't take your mobility device, your scooter or a rollator into the landing of the stairwell, because then that'll clog it up and prevent others from coming through. But stage at the top of that stairwell, whatever floor your apartment is on, and then either security, maintenance, you know, those other folks that I said would be coming, that is going to be our primary mission. Once fire department arrives, that's our mission, is now to evac people that are mobility impaired. All right, we're going to be going every floor, every stairwell. We've got mobility devices to assist you down the stairs, so that won't be a problem, but that is where you would evacuate to. And the next couple of slides are going to be talking about the evacuation route specifically. I just want to preface this by saying this is a guideline. This is kind of a best practice. This will always be situationally dependent. Okay, just like Stephen said, if you come out and your evacuation route is down this hallway and there's smoke, don't go down that hallway. I mean, I know that sounds common sense and silly, but don't be so locked into, I've got to follow this plan, that you do something that's going to get yourself into trouble. So you have to exercise judgment and common sense. So this is a guideline. Know where your stairwell is, but also know where the next one would be. What would your backup be for evacuation? These plaques are going to be at every elevator landing. So if you're curious as to where these images are coming from, every elevator, you step off the elevator, turn around and look, these plaques are there, whether it's the single or the double, what have you. This one, in fact, is from, looks like OBT, I think.
That's WBC. It's right outside the maintenance hallway, but they're actually all down the hallways in the east and west apartments also. They're located down every hallway, approximately every 75 feet of every hallway.
And they will also mark your stairs for you as well. So these are going to show your evacuation staging areas. So once you get out of the building, this is where you would stage, just to make sure we have accountability and we've gotten everyone. This is going to be the east building. There are two. You've got obviously the parking lot area, and then you have the WBC parking lot, which is this area up here, and that's for folks coming out of this section of the building down here, the ground floor. And it's much easier to come this way than to go around the building to the parking lot, if everyone sees that. So that's what that WBC parking lot would be for. The handouts in the back show which staging area based on your room number. But again, that's a guideline. That's not a hard and fast rule. And then here are the locations in west. You've got, again, the parking lot. Then the first floor exit out towards the Misty Morning Road, and then the grassy area past the garden for those coming out the first floor, kind of near the atrium, that exit coming out that side. There's a grassy area there. And this would just be where you would congregate during an evacuation or during a drill as well. You want to go over the resident volunteers for staging areas yet?
Sure, might as well, yeah, since we're here.
So this is an ask we have of you guys, and I want to lean on floor reps a little bit for this. It doesn't have to be a floor rep, but they can help coordinate this. We need a primary and an alternate to help take attendance at the staging areas. So West would need 3, well 6, because a primary and alternate for each location, then East would need 2. Just to help take attendance, to help corral during an evacuation. This would function both during a fire drill and an actual event. And we'd like a primary or alternate in case somebody's out of town or what have you. There's no really other special requirements for that, but that's something we have had in the past, and we'd like to, again, to have those volunteers that could function in that capacity.
Now, this is another one of those things that may seem like common sense, but don't use elevators when there's a fire. They're not, when the general alarm goes off, they're not going to work anyway, or at least they shouldn't. They have, I think we had one event in the last few weeks where one of the elevators actually did work, but that has since been corrected. But the elevators won't work, and just about every piece of signage that you will see will tell you, please don't use elevators in the case of a fire. This is just kind of reiterating what I mentioned about our pets. We all love our dogs and our cats. So as we're leaving an emergency, please try to make sure we use good judgment. Let's ensure that we don't endanger ourselves as we are exiting with our pets. If you have the extending leashes, let's try to make sure that they're not a trip hazard for other people as we're exiting the building. We just don't want anybody to get hurt, as everybody typically is in a hurry when we're leaving in that situation. Also keep in mind that LVE and the fire department, nobody is going to be retrieving the pets from a smoke-filled or burning building. So it's your responsibility to make sure that your pet gets out of the building. When you are visiting with friends, if you happen to be visiting with someone when an event occurs and the alarm goes off, the official verbiage of the evacuation plan is to leave with your friend and follow them and follow their evacuation route with them, and not to go back to your own apartment. I would say that in most cases, if you are next door to your own apartment and you have your own go bag that's right next door and you need to get your stuff or your pet or your animal, use your own best judgment. It's a judgment call. I think we're all adults and we have our own things and we know, but I would say that if you're going from east to west, that's a whole nother battle that you may have to deal with. But if you're a couple of doors down and you walk out the door and there's nothing going on and you feel safe to go back and get your animal and get your go bag and do what you need to do, I think that's probably your decision to make. But the official verbiage from ACTS is for you to stay with your neighbor and follow their evacuation plan and go that route. So I'll leave that with you. You can do with that what you will. The all clear is kind of going to be up to Aaron and his department for the most part. Once the all clear is given from the fire personnel, someone from our team, whether it's security or maintenance or whoever it is going to be walking around to all of those stage areas to let you guys know that it's okay to go back to your apartments. Once that is done, of course, head back up to your apartments, do whatever you need to do. I would say that if you hear the alarm for the building turn off and it's been a few minutes and nobody has stopped by, call security, call the front gate, and see if the all clear has been given. If they give you the all clear, make your own decision at that point to go back up. But we will be making our way again. It's a long way around that building, so it's about a 25-minute process to get to all those staging areas to give the all clear. But once we get it from the fire department, we typically make our way around as quickly as possible, so we know everybody doesn't want to hang outside very long.
I will add one thing to that. If again, we can't exactly plan when an event like this might occur, so depending on weather and whatnot, we're not asking you to stand outside in the rain. So if you then, once you exit the building, if you secure yourself in your vehicle or you come down to the clubhouse, just be mindful of that, and when you hear the all clear, feel free to help us pass that word to folks that might have left those staging areas for one reason or another. Obviously, bathroom use or any reason that you might have left that staging area, you might not get the word as we're coming around. Help us pass that word once we get an all clear from the fire department.
Well, and the last thing that will happen in that process is a reverse 911 call will go out, giving the all clear to everyone. So as long as you have your cell phone number listed in the reverse 911 listing, you should receive that message via your cell phone as well. So that may be something that you want to update with Julia. Just that some of you have only your home phones, I've noticed in the past. So if you have a cell phone, you may want to get that listed as well. But the reverse 911 would be the last form of communication, because we're going to be manually going around the building first, and then once I get done or Aaron gets done, we'll get back to our office or laptop, and the last thing we'll do is give the all clear via the reverse 911. So that would be the last way that you'll hear it, but it will come across. And again, yeah, especially if it's winter time, that's another reason to have that go bag with so you have a car key or something. And I think last year we had somebody that went and sat in their car and crunked their car in the heater because it was a little chilly out that night. So something to consider. But check in at the staging area to let everybody know where you're at, maybe, and then go make yourself comfortable if it's cold or chilly or raining or whatever, for sure.
Would a couple of air horns be a good way to signal all clear?
I've never considered that, but that would definitely be something to think about.
That would save.
It could be confused with the building alarm, so I'm not.
Air horn sounds different than this.
I mean, it'd just be fun to have an air horn there. Ride around on the Polaris with a big air horn. That would be fun.
Little aerosol can horn.
And then finally, this is the big one. So accidents happen. And this is probably one of the biggest deterrents in people actually participating in the evacuation plan, is that early morning burnt toast or bacon getting fried and the general alarm going off on an accident. I think we probably get 2 a week, maybe 3 a week on average, if I had to guess. So just a couple of tips and reminders. If you're cooking bacon or burnt toast, something happens and your smoke detector and your alarm goes off. Couple of things. Please do not open the door to your hallway. Leave that door closed, go to your sliding door or some windows, open it up, and let's allow for ventilation that way. First thing that's going to happen is you're going to get a phone call from either someone from security or from the front well, not front gate, but maybe the front desk. Let's try that one. So somebody's going to call you to try to make sure that you don't have a fire, like an open flame emergency that's going on. And somebody's already going to be walking your way as that phone call is happening. When that personnel gets there, they're not going to knock. They're just going to come in with a key. And we're going to assist in that ventilation process to get the smoke out until we can clear the alarm and reset it. What we don't want to happen is for that hallway door to open and smoke to get out and that general alarm to go off, and then everybody has to evacuate, and it causes a problem, because then with the false alarms, it makes nobody want to go outside when the real thing happens, right? So basically, if we ever have a real fire at 9:30 in the morning, nobody's leaving the building. So it's a constant training battle for us, especially with some of the contractors that we have that come in and out. If you sand drywall at the wrong time without covering the smoke heads, it can cause that alarm to go off. There's a lot of things from the maintenance standpoint that can cause that to happen. So we train constantly on trying to stay up to date and keeping our contractors up to date on how to prevent that from happening. But you guys participating in these drills is very important. And the fire department actually mentioned that in that event in April, I think we had more than half of the residents in the west building declined to leave. And there was smoke on the 5th and 6th floors, completely filled the entire 5th and 6th floors, and people were refusing to leave. So that it's one of those things where we understand, I mean, I get it, but at the same time, without your participation, there's not a lot we can do to protect you. You gotta help us help you at the same time. Anything to add to that, Aaron?
No, we like to open the floor to questions.
Yeah, any?
Aaron, on the example you gave, at what point does the general alarm
Can you stand
ring?
up so we can hear you?
I'm going to repeat the question.
At what point does the general alarm ring? When the gate light comes on in the welcome center, does the whole building alarm go off? Or after your person finds it, looks at it, and decides if it's real?
So his question is about the general alarm. When will the entire building execute a general alarm? That part is automated. It's when the detectors sense a problem. That's not up to us to call. That's not up to, when the detectors decide there's a problem, the general alarm kicks in.
And it could be from a multitude of items. It could be from a carbon monoxide sensor that's attached to an HVAC unit. It could be smoke detector in a hallway, or, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons for that general alarm to go off, not necessarily just smoke either.
I guess my question is then, so we don't leave when the fire alarm rings? That's what you're telling me?
No, you should always leave. If the general alarm goes
Yeah.
off, you should always evacuate.
Aaron told us. Aaron said to wait, somebody from maintenance, somebody from.
No, I never said wait.
We were trying to figure out, because you were talking about it from your perspective, not from our perspective, and I was listening. When does it become real so that I have to do something?
Well, the smoke alarm in your apartment and the general alarm are two different things. Yeah, the smoke alarm in your apartment and the general alarm are two separate things.
What's confusing me is you're saying the general alarm goes off, and Aaron told us not to leave the apartment until after the maintenance person or had gone.
No. So there's two different alarm types. Your specific apartment alarm, which is technically called a supplementary, and then you have a main alarm, which is the general alarm. It's the whole building. If the whole building alarm goes off, that is the point you need to grab your stuff and leave. All right? It may not be a real event, but we don't know that. So when the general alarm, when the whole building goes off, that is the point to leave.
Yeah, that's my point. You talk about false alarms. There's no such thing as a false alarm. If the building rings.
That's a good point. Yeah, right. Right. Anytime the general alarm goes off, we should execute
I'm
the
so sorry, I don't
execution
know
plan.
who was next.
Is there a difference in the sound of the general alarm in your apartment versus just your apartment? Because I know when the one went off.
So the strobe and the siren for the general alarm will be going off on the general alarm,
That's
and on
easier.
the house alarm, it's just the audible alarm. Yes, there is a difference, and you will know it.
So in your apartment, you would see a strobe.
Right.
And the apartment alarms are not near as prevalent to outside issues. So some of the issues that set the building off that is not an actual fire could be a sensor in an HVAC that he's talking about, drywall sanding. Any number of things could set the building off. If you're hearing it in your apartment and you are not actively producing smoke yourself, it's time to get out. If that makes sense. That's going to be a general alarm. Because the apartment alarms are not, because they're only sensing what's in your living room, kitchen, and bedroom area, there's much fewer things that would cause them to alarm and it not be an actual fire.
Because I know the air duct problem we had not so long ago, all I remember feeling very deaf. I wasn't sure how I could differentiate between in my apartment versus general.
Questions, we can't hear what the questions.
I understand.
are.
Who was next? Yes, ma'am.
Is there to be a written summary of the discussion today distributed to all of us so that we have the corrections in print?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to take this evacuation meeting and the evacuation plan from the original resident handbook. I'm going to update it, and I'll post it on a link within the next 2 weeks. So you'll have the ability to, it'll be on either a PDF or a hyperlink so that you can print it yourself also.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And this presentation is also being filmed so others can view it, or you can view it at a later date
Right.
yourself. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a sprinkler system, and if so, what activates it and where?
So she asked if there's a sprinkler system, and if there is, what activates it? So yes, there's a sprinkler system, and heat activates it. So
There's two. There's a dry system and a wet system, all depending on where you're at and which building you're in and what function it serves. So in West, you have a wet and a dry. Most of the attic spaces are a dry system. Most of the hallways and apartments are all wet systems. Yes, we do have sprinkler systems, heat activated. A broomstick will do it also. If you, that's a joke. A housekeeper walked by and hit a sprinkler head, and it broke the mercury glass. And once you break that mercury glass, you're getting 1,000 gallons a minute everywhere. It's a mess. But yes, we have sprinkler systems that cover nearly every inch of this property and every loading dock, every porte-cochere. Yes, ma'am.
yes, sir.
If a sprinkler goes off in your apartment, for example, there is a fire that causes the sprinkler to go off, do all the sprinklers go off or just in that apartment?
It's in a zone. They're zoned. So in an apartment, it would just be that apartment. Yes. Try to manage
His
the
question was
damage.
if the sprinkler goes off specifically in your apartment, is it just there or is it everywhere? And like Steven said, it's zoned, so it's going to be there, but it could be a larger area than what the fire specifically is. Yes, ma'am.
We're in the midst of storm season. Can you address the evacuation plan for tornado warnings? Like I'm on the 6th floor, I'm supposed to go to a lower floor.
Because so she's asking about what to do in the event of inclement weather, tornado, hail, hurricane, that sort of thing. Because the instructions and guidance are slightly different, we didn't want to muddle the water, so that would be a separate presentation.
I will post that though and on the link for you. If you'll give me a couple of days, I'll update that and put it on the link for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we gonna have a drill?
Yes, that's the purpose of this meeting. I wanted to have an educational because it's been a while since the independent living group has had a drill. So I wanted to review the evacuation plans with both groups first, and then I will have a drill probably within the next month. I wanted to let the weather warm up a little bit. I didn't want it.
Pretty sunny day.
Yeah. But just to let you know, I will not be giving you a warning of when it's coming so that you can all leave like we have done in the past, because I want 100% participation.
Can we make sure it's not at 11 o'clock at night after we're at bed?
No, we're thinking 2 in the morning. 2 in the morning, yeah. The first one's probably going to be midday sometime. But yeah, we will have a drill within the next month. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for your patience. We will try to get to everyone. Yes, ma'am.
There are double doors that close to seal off one section of a hallway.
Mhm.
If your apartment can you get out of those double doors if the exit door is right around the corner?
So her question was regarding the fire doors. All the fire doors are held back with magnets. When the building alarms, those magnets release and the doors shut. It's still perfectly fine to go through them. Those are just meant to contain the fire in one area or the other.
Check them for heat first. But yes.
Yes, no, they're not locked. Yes, ma'am.
Many people do not leave their apartments. Is it possible we all wear name tags? That somebody would give us, I evacuated, or we evacuated the apartment, so that other neighbors might say, okay, my sign is out there, I evacuated. Nobody knows who has evacuated.
I'm actually, her question was regarding signage for the doors as to whether or not that resident has evacuated or not, so that team members or fire personnel would know who's evacuated and who hasn't. A lot of residents choose not to evacuate. Well, I've actually talked with the fire department and with some of our upper management about that signage, and I'm working on that. I'm trying to, they're trying to let me know and decide whether or not that's a good plan or not, but I think it's a good idea personally. I'd like to, even if it's just something as simple as an E, that you put on the back of the door, and if you evacuate, you put the E on the outside, let everybody know it's empty. Yes, ma'am. Because every door is metallic, so it would work fine. But we're working on that. I don't have a good answer for you yet, but hopefully in the next 30 days I should. I've got another meeting set up with the fire marshals.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Take it off the door when you leave.
For those whose apartments are on the upper floors, 4, 5, 6, do they proceed to the stairwell and go down the stairwell when they hear a general alarm?
So his question was, if you're on one of the upper floors, you may have quite a trek down the stairs to evacuate, but yes. In that event, elevators should not function, and even if they do, it's a dangerous place during a fire. So stay away from the elevators. That's why we're talking about the mobility impairment list if you're going to need assistance. But most folks, even if you're mobility impaired, you can sit down on the stairs and then one step at a time. I mean, you may make it 2 floors before a service member comes to assist you in evacuation. But well, it depends on your level. But if you're completely unable to navigate stairs, we have the ability to get you down. But yes, you can't go to the elevator. You will need to go to the stairs.
You were talking about touching the apartment door, see if it's hot. At night, when I go to bed and I turn my lights out, there's a lot of daylight or lights from the hallway underneath my door and up the side. So I would think if there was smoke in the hallway, it's gonna be coming right in my apartment.
Very possible. If you do see that happening, you would probably want to put a damp towel under that door and try to block some of that smoke and head out to your patio. That's just something I would do.
There's a lot of daylight.
Yeah.
Well, I say daylight, yeah.
Hall light. Hall light. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any more questions? I thought I saw another hand. Yes, ma'am.
I'll give you one. Okay, tell me about having a representative to be at the staging area and to take roll. I used to teach school, so I'm not familiar with the process. Judging from past experience, people just tend to scatter. And that I can't see how that's gonna work, because if some people decide, okay, I'm gonna go to the clubhouse because it's air conditioned or heated, whichever the case, I can go right down my hall and go in there. And then we have a staging area here and a staging area there. I'm just not real comfortable on how that's gonna work. And then what do we do with the information we gather? Is somebody gonna come around and collect it from us?
So her question is about the staging areas and taking attendance. You're completely right. It is not going to be a 100% solution. We're working to try to get something that we can see an approximation of how many people. It does require participation on your part to check in with your staging area before you go to your car or the clubhouse, that sort of thing. But it gives us an approximation. We also have folks that are out of town. So that list that we're going to give those volunteers will be updated semi-weekly with those out-of-town visits. But again, that's information you guys provide, so it's only as accurate as the information that we get. You're 100% right, it's not going to be foolproof, but it is better than doing nothing. It's actually a lot better than doing nothing. So that's the direction we'd like to proceed with. Yes, ma'am.
I've always heard we're not to lock our doors when we evacuate.
That's 100% correct. She said we're not supposed to lock our doors once we evacuate, and that is exactly correct, yes. Please leave your doors unlocked. It's a much easier process for fire personnel if we are evacuating the building to walk in and clear that room to make sure that it is empty. So yes, ma'am, great point, thank you.
And a follow-up on that, Stephen has actually ordered, what are they called, Fox boxes?
Knox.
Knox boxes. So these are boxes that have master keys to the entire facility that the fire department can access once they come on property. So once the fire department gets here, they will, in addition to security, maintenance, housekeeping, they will have keys that they can go and facilitate the evacuation. But that is something new that Stephen added, so that's going to be it's going to be better for us.
So they'll also have the keys to all of the mechanical closets and the elevator rooms, all that good stuff, so they can get into like that elevator room where we had the incident almost a year ago today, actually. Almost a year ago today.
Yes, ma'am.
This is the worst scenario. Say I'm on the 6th floor, and so I go to my balcony because of there's a fire out in the hall. Can the fire truck reach me? Is there ladder, will it get to the 6th floor to get me out of that situation? You said, go to your patio. Well, most of us have the screen porch.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to get a fire truck to the areas, that would be a big deal too. Anyway, that's the worst scenario, but just in case.
So she asked about being on the 6th floor of the building and whether or not the fire truck would have the ability to reach her on the patio if the fire wasn't at the door and she had to go to the patio, whether or not the fire truck would be able to rescue her from that 6th floor patio. It's a great question, and I would imagine that would probably be a case-by-case basis based on the height, probably solely on the height of that patio. The fire truck has the ability to get anywhere on our property. Our sidewalks have support designed for the weight of the fire trucks to get anywhere around the property, so they can definitely get to the location. Now I can't speak for the fire trucks, the ability to get 80 feet to the height. I don't know about that without actually asking Hall County Fire, but I can check on that information. That's a good question. I just don't know. As far as having the ability to get to your apartment, that I know they can. The ability for the ladder to get to the 6th floor patio on the backside of East, that's probably 80 or 90 feet up, I'm not 100% sure of. I know that they can get there. I know that they can drive there because our sidewalks are designed for them to be able to handle the weight that they reinforced every sidewalk. You may have seen some of the waffling on the sides of the sidewalks that's coming through where the grass won't grow. That's reinforcement for fire trucks to drive on.
Yes, ma'am.
When you talk about people who refuse to leave an apartment, when the fire department or your maintenance people, whatever, go door to door, are those people forced to leave at that point?
She's asking whether or not when fire personnel or maintenance knock on your door during one of these events, if we're going to force you to leave your apartment. No, ma'am. Absolutely not. We do not force anyone to leave. That's 100% up to you. We highly recommend that you do. We would hope that you would want to, but no, we will not force you. You are your own guardian, and we're not going to force anyone to leave. No, ma'am.
If it's a fire, you wouldn't you?
Nope.
You said no.
No, ma'am. If there's a fire and you decide not to go, we're going to go next door and hope somebody else wants to go and take them. We're going to help people who want to help themselves first.
Is there any other questions?
Read the directions first and then
Well, we want to thank you so much for attending this brief. We're going to have it again tomorrow, so if any of your friends miss, they're welcome to attend tomorrow. And thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a great afternoon.